Well, I know these videos jump around a bit, and here we go for another jump. I'm back onto the neck again. Here's the neck. I've done a little bit of work, sort of roughed out the peg head since the last time you saw this, but really haven't done much to it. One thing I have done for this next step is to put a very small chamfer on the edge of the tenon. That'll help it slide in easier instead of catching on the edge. I've also done the same thing right along here. I've put a small chamfer on each side of the pocket. That way when I'm pulling the neck out, I don't pull any veneers with it. So if I've done everything right here, I should be able to put this in, and it should slide in reasonably easily. A little bit of resistance. Too tight, I run the risk of splitting the block or doing some other damage. Too loose, well, nobody ever wants a loose joint. It's going to cause problems down the road. As I put this in and out, as I'm fitting it, it may get a little bit looser. But if it's too loose, if you can get any movement in there, you'll have to put a piece of veneer on the side of the tenon or in the pocket and then shave it down until it's just perfect, which this one is at this point. Now I've put the neck on, and the neck is actually going to want to be the thickness of the top higher than the block here. But what I want to check for right now is I'm gonna put the neck flush down on the block, and I'm going to make sure that it's flush and equal all the way across. I could have done some poor sanding when I had it in the dish. In this case, it turns out I didn't. Next, I'm going to check and make sure that it's absolutely flat and fair with the neck. You remember I put, I think it was 1.5 degrees bevel on the heel here, and then this block is cut at a slight angle due to the angle of the dome in the dish. So doing that, if I've got both of these right and if everything else went well, this should be a nice straight line. I'll put a straight edge on there, check it out, make sure it's nice and flat. A little bit down is probably better than a little bit of a ski ramp there. There's the notorious hump we're going to try to stay away from. Plus, as guitars age, they start to rise. So it should be nice and straight through here and fair with the neck, but if a little bit down is better than a little bit up. Once I'm happy with the joint, I'll grab a piece of material that I've sanded down to be exactly the same thickness as the top is right now. This isn't super critical, but I just want to make a little measuring tool that'll allow me to do this easily. And I'm going to push this down until I've accounted for the thickness of the top. Now that I've got that where I like it, I'll put a clamp on it. Now, I've been through all kinds of different jigs to do this, but this actually seems to work the best. Put the body on there and use it as the jig for this particular instrument. I'm just going to take a 5/16 brad point bit and drill right down into there. I've got a little piece of tape on there at the length that my screw is going to be, and here we go. This is a Wagner safety plane. They stopped making them, but there's a knockoff on the market right now. I haven't tried it, but it looks like it would probably do the job. Looks dangerous as heck, doesn't it? But it is called a safety plane, so of course it's safe. Well, you got to take due caution with it if you're going to use something like this. It is a good tool for hogging off material, and I like it for this particular operation because while I could have made a more accurate line on here and bandsawed it out really accurately, it just takes one little slip and then oops, I'm too thin. So what I've done here is I've set up a jig to get the initial taper in the neck. And it's pretty simple. It's got two little fences on it that the neck doesn't actually fit too tightly in, but it is kind of restrained. And as long as I hold the shoulder of the neck up against here and the nut up against this little shim here, it's going to plane a straight line between 1/8 of an inch thinner up by the neck than it will be down by the heel. Watch this thing go. I need to cut the shape of the heel next, and to do that I want to make sure that I've got the outside dimension of my fretboard accurate. So I've laid my fretboard on the instrument, and it's exactly the same width as the rough neck down here, and I've used a small tool to make sure that it's exactly the same distance on each side up here, so it's nice and straight and parallel with the neck. Then I've set another combination square up to exactly the center of my carbon fiber rod there, and at the first fret I'm going to make a mark so that when I drill through to put a pin in, similarly to what I did down here at this end to hold it in place, it's in the carbon fiber rod and very solid. So here's a small pattern that I use for laying out the heel, and it is designed, you can see, for a slightly narrower neck here. But I'm just going to push it out because all I'm really doing is a rough cut here. So I got a little extra space there, and I'm going to mark where my cut wants to be on both sides. And then I'll use this template to mark out the shape of the heel. I'm going to leave it right here with just rough shaping the heel of the neck at this point. I'm not going to do any more shaping. I want to do that with the fretboard on. I want to leave the back side of the neck flat so I've got good clamping surface there. But I wanted to get the heel shaped so that as I'm assembling the body, which I do with the neck on to make sure everything lines up properly, that it's only contacting where it's going to contact eventually, and it doesn't have all that excess material on it. So next video is going to be doing a little bit of side bracing, 2 different techniques, and then we'll get to assembling the body.